All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk a little bit more about your project today and the research that you need to do just to try and clarify any places where there might be some misunderstandings and things, and to show you where you can find some of the information in case you haven't stumbled upon these things yet. We left off last time talking about causes and how this can be one of the more complicated sections of your report. It's really a section where we do want to have some focus because this is what we've been studying about is genetics, and so we want to know how it is that the genes cause this disorder. So again, if you have any questions about it, let me know. Remember, there is the website, and I'll see if I can't get there now. There is the second. Remember, it's the second one down in the genetic disorder research page on my blog. Again, that was March 28th, 2019, or you can get to it right from the assignment in Teams. But if you click on that one, just to reiterate again, that you can scroll down, and if you go all the way down past all of these genetic disorders, to featured content, there is the glossary of genetic terms. So if you click on that, it will take you to an alphabetical list of genetic terms. So if you run into something during your research that you do not understand, make use of this and try and learn and understand more than you do already. So let's go back to our page, our research page for just a second. We'll go to our next topic, which is symptoms and complications. So symptoms are basically what happens to the body because of this particular disorder, and complications can be when those things happen to the body. How does that complicate things even further? Like, what is kind of the domino effect of that? Complications can also have to do with the treatments. So some treatments, you can think of it in terms of some kinds of cancer. Some of the treatments for cancer, sure, they help to treat the disease, but they also cause other problems as well. So those are considered to be complications. So if we go to this is the first website on here, and I've actually already got it up, and again I'll refer to Rett syndrome just to keep things consistent. If you scroll down a little ways, or excuse me, on this one, it's going to kind of be in the description a little bit. It will talk about some of the issues. So with Rett syndrome, there are severe problems with language, communication, learning, coordination, brain function, and it goes on to talk about some other signs and symptoms as well. If you go to, a page like the other one that we are talking about, the second one down, I don't know that they have Rett syndrome on this particular page, but if we were to go to Tay-Sachs disease, okay, and if we were to read about what we know about it, they would talk some in there about symptoms and complications. And there's also, if we go to the Mayo Clinic Clinic's a really good place to go for symptoms, which is the third one down there. If I go to the letter R here for Rett syndrome, and I scroll down, and let's see, I think they have it in here. There it is. And go to Rett syndrome. They give an overview, and then they talk about symptoms here. So they give a nice list on the Mayo Clinic website of various symptoms, and you can see with Rett syndrome there are a lot of different symptoms there. All right, if we scroll to the next item, which is diagnosis. So things we want to know: is the disease diagnosed, and are there tests that are used in order to diagnose it? Sometimes they have tests, sometimes it's just a matter of the doctors asking questions and making observations and determining that way. So if we go back to our original main website that we've been using, the first one listed in my blog, and we go down to diagnosis. All right, so here sometimes it will give a link to tell us different ways that it's diagnosed. Sometimes it doesn't give that information, but if we go back to, say, the Mayo Clinic, they talk about diagnosis as well as treatment. So this particular part of your report is going to be on diagnosis, and so you can see here that Rett syndrome, they diagnose it through observation of the child's growth, and then they also rule out other possible conditions. They also talk about what tests they would need to do in order to be able to determine if somebody has Rett syndrome, and what kinds of things they look for in determining whether or not somebody has Rett syndrome. They also do some genetic testing as well. Okay, so diagnosis is figuring out how do we know that that's what disease this person has. And then slide number 6 is the treatment or cure. So is there a cure for this disease? There are very few of these genetic disorders or diseases or syndromes where there is truly a cure, where you can get rid of that genetic disorder. Unfortunately, they are so complicated, it is hard to find cures for them. Occasionally there is. There are definitely treatments, things you can do to alleviate some of the difficulties and some of the symptoms that people go through to make life a little bit easier and to make things better. So can the disease be treated, and if so, how? Is there a cure for this disease? So those are the things you're going to look for there. And so we can go back to our original, and sometimes they will have a thing here that talks about treatments. This one does not happen to talk about that, but the Mayo Clinic, the third one down, definitely talks about treatment. What kinds of treatments? It says there is no cure for Rett syndrome, so I would put that in my project. Then it talks about the different treatments that people can have to help improve their life. All right, so let's see. That's slide number 6. We'll go to life expectancy. And with life expectancy, it's basically how long would somebody be expected to live. With some of these different disorders, it's a very, very short time. Sometimes they typically don't even make it to birth. But again, sometimes in here they will list a life expectancy. Sometimes you might have to actually Google that one. Life expectancy for Rett's or Rett syndrome. Okay, and so here, this is from childrenshospital.org, it's Boston Children's, and so again, that would be considered a reputable source, and it talks about here that the lifespan is short, don't really know exactly what the life expectancy is for people with Rett syndrome. It says on average, most individuals with the condition survive into their 40s or 50s. If I click here, then I can get a little more information, and I can get the website for my bibliography. All right, so ladies and gents, that's kind of where we're going to stop today. So hopefully this has been helpful for you in being able to get some of your research done. We'll talk some more at our class later today. All right. Thanks, ladies and gents. I know it's open. I can't find it.